Hi folks, Kevin here. Well, it's July 25th, 2017, and the story hasn't changed. It's still raining here. We've had unseasonably a significant amount of rainfall on a regular basis this spring and summer, which is unusual. Even though we live in a cold temperate climate, this time of year in July, it's usually much drier. We usually don't have as much rainfall. Last year, we were in the midst of a severe drought by this time last year. So, with that aside, I thought I'd take a few minutes today to go ahead and respond to some comments and questions on some of the recent videos. Even one video that was a while ago. So let me grab my little laptop so I can read the question. So Rick S., who I think is a friend of my nephew Jim Wallace, he was visiting Jim's work, and he was wondering how you cool the thermal mass to achieve thermal cooling in our house. And it's also going to be similar to what's going in the greenhouse area as well. I would think the thermal mass would absorb ambient heat during the day and would have to be released to the outside at night if temperatures were low. And he thought the video was pretty informative, and I'll link to it up here. The title of the video is Thermal Mass Energy Storage Passive Solar Home. That's a little bit about how the system that we built here actually works. And Joan, a while back, actually wondered, geez, how well, sorry to step out of the camera frame, how we actually cool the house, maintain cooling during the summertime. And I've gone over various features of, using the shade trees, using the overhang, those things there. But we just haven't been warm enough. We've had a cool, damp spring and summer so far. So it hasn't been hot enough. We've had a couple of days in the 90s and very humid, but not to the point where I can demonstrate the significant difference where it's 98 degrees outside and it's 78 or 80 degrees inside, and it's staying that temperature because we have all those thermal sensors all over the structures. But anyways, getting back to Rick S.'s question, I want to go over a couple of terms first. First, I want to just point out that temperature is not heat. Temperature is a quantitative measurement of the relative heat of an object or a system. And when we're talking about objects or systems, when we're describing heat, we need to think about solids, liquids, and gases. And when we measure the temperature or assess the relative heat of a system or an object, then we're really talking about its constituents, the atoms and molecules. And the atoms and molecules have a certain vibration or molecular activity, kinetic energy, where the molecules and atoms are moving at variable frequencies. The higher temperature of a system or an object, and thermal mass, we can think of that, the higher the temperature, the more rapid or the more activity there is, the more kinetic energy there is in the atoms and the molecules. And in the video before, I described conduction, convection, and radiation. Conduction is quite simple. You put your hand on a hot plate or a hot stove. The direct contact with that other object that has a higher energy, the molecules are moving more rapidly, conducts that heat energy, and it vibrates the molecules in your hand or whatever other object is coming in close contact. Another thing to be aware of when we're and I know I'm going on about this, but I want to make sure that as I'm describing things, we're thinking about some fundamental concepts or definitions. I forgot what I was going to say just then. Excuse me. When we're thinking about heat and the transfer of heat from one object to another object, or from one system to another system, heat always transfers from the higher activity, the higher temperature, to the lower temperature. So that's an important concept as well. So even though an ice cube is considered to be quite cold, and we use it to cool our drinks, we may use it to immediately stop the cooking process after blanching certain vegetables, and we put them in an ice bath. Ice actually has a level of activity of the atoms and molecules in it that really tell us that there is heat in that object. So I just wanted to mention those few things first. And Rick is right, you know, we can take, during the daytime, we have the solar radiation that's coming down and heating the surfaces. It heats the ground surface, it heats the buildings. When I was in Tucson, Arizona, it was real easy for me to be able to tell how close I was to many of the brick or stone buildings that were there, because of the amount of heat that would radiate off of those buildings. The closer you got, the more you could feel that temperature. And if you were to walk barefoot on hot black asphalt, through conduction your feet would get burned as well. So there's conduction with your feet touching that pavement, or touching cold surfaces as well. When I would do ice diving years ago, even though I'd wear a wetsuit, there'd be parts of my body that were exposed. So you get into that frigid water, and the heat would leave my body rapidly, decrease circulation in those tissues that were in that area, and I would feel that rush of coldness occurring, where I would lose heat. It would dissipate and go into the surrounding substance around me. Now that was actually convection in that situation. So conduction, convection, and radiation, and I know I'm not going through this as well as I would on a board or in a demonstration system, but I just wanted to bring those terms up and to describe what we're talking about when we're talking about potentially actively cooling a system. So underneath this house, it's all wash stone, meaning that there's stones there. There isn't the dirt around it like you might find in the earth around here. And the air flows through those stones down during when we're trying to gather all the heat. We're taking all the heat from the peak of the ceiling, going down through the chimneys, those two chimneys alongside of the wood stove chimney, and we conduct it through a filter system, through an attic fan, and it goes through a plenum and distributes out to the large thermal mass area, and then it's brought up into other parts of the house, and it's an open envelope system. So the systems are all interconnected. And I could go in great detail of all the other structures within the house that are systems or bodies that
Alert Zone 1. Alert Zone 1. Alert Zone 1.
Excuse me for one moment. So Rick, I guess the best way of describing how we're actually cooling our house system is we're using predominantly a convection system. Now there's two types of convection systems. There's the active convection system, where you're using a fan system, for example, to increase the flow of air or fluid through a system. or we're using a natural convection system like happens outside when the sun hits the earth, the heat rises, the cool air falls. So we're using that natural system in this house as well. Now we use the active one. As you may recall, we have the attic fan down below in the plenum, feeding the plenum with an air filter, and it sucks the warm air from the peak of the house down into the thermal mass. So how are we cooling it, knowing that this system is running 24 hours, 7 days a week? When the temperature gets warm enough where we're getting up to 81, 82, 83 degrees inside the house, and we're not anticipating a cold stretch, what we do is we start opening up the skylights. The areas where the skylights are near the peak of the roof isn't an area where people are there and that are getting benefits from that natural lighting. It's actually on the north side of the house. So those skylights are actually on the north side of the house, and in the northern hemisphere, if we had them on the south side of the house, we get more solar gain, we get more heat that way. So they're purposely on the north side of the house. So that's the cooler side of the house, because as the sun hits the south side of the house, there's a convection currents that pull up, and it pulls some of those other currents up the north side as well. So as the warm air that leaves the house out through the skylight, it tends to rise. Well, we need to replace that with something. Well, when we built the house, we put in a couple of 4-inch PVC pipes that come out, that go underground, similar to where our water system and electric system and security systems go out to underground. Well, that comes out around the base of the house, and it's just a few inches above the surface of the ground. And that allows cool air to come down. As the warm air leaves the house, the cool, fresh air comes in at ground level, which is the coolest air, in a shaded area. This is in shaded areas. It brings that cool air into the house as well. So what we're doing when we're cooling the thermal mass is, like I mentioned early on in this video, we're not actually using a refrigeration system or anything like that to actively try and lower the temperature. We're utilizing natural forces. The higher the activity of the molecules and the atoms of the system, the thermal mass itself, is going to naturally try to dissipate and go to a lower energy molecular activity. So we allow that to discharge out through the house naturally. And of course that the cool air coming into the system through natural convection currents is going to be is going to feed cooler air into the system. I hope that answers the questions. We'll be doing it differently. We're going to be using more conduction in conjunction with different liquid and air media in the greenhouse, and I'll go over that in more detail in the future. I've described it before in one of the greenhouse videos with using the geothermal loop that we put in Pond 5 to help cool the water totes that are in the center of the greenhouse as well. But I'll go over that in more detail in the future. So I hope this answers your question, Rick. If you have more questions or comments, please ask. Sorry about the more sciencey type stuff in the beginning of this response, but I just want to make sure there isn't a confusion. I know that previously one comment was absorption being another way of conveying energy, and I really want to get to the basic science of it so we're all understanding how these systems work. So on to another question. Something else is popping in. So there are some more, I had some DJI responses to videos and all, and right now I'll just give you a brief update. The Phantom 4, after speaking with a supervisor at the repair facility in California, one repair facility, I spent some time, I finally decided I'll go ahead and send the unit back in again They did expedited shipping, expedited processing and all, so I'm really happy that that's happening. I haven't gotten the Phantom 4 back yet, but supposedly I got one email response that said that there was a module that needed to be replaced, and that was replaced. So I'm not sure where we are with that, to tell you the truth. Once I get it back, I'll do a review, and it'll be an honest review. I don't have anything against DJI. I do have something against any corporation where the culture really doesn't honor their customers, honor them with taking care of something that's their own fault due to defects in materials or manufacturing process or their customer commitment. So I'm not going to go any further with that today. Made by Steve. Could you please do a 2-minute video on the saw you need to cut, that I use to cut the 6x6 tops off, so that for the pressure treated posts. That's with the Honey Hut Construction 2, a video that I just posted just recently. Let me set this down. So yes, it's in 2012 I purchased, so actually, apologize for stepping out of the frame there. I'm very much into tools. Tools make things possible for me to accomplish that I wouldn't be able to accomplish otherwise. And so in 2012, I decided to invest in more electrical tools. So I've always used cordless drills and saws and all, but once we got to the point where we're producing more energy on site through our solar panels and all, I really wanted to make a commitment to get as many of our tools as possible off of using petrochemicals and over to electric. So the tool that I use in the video is this chainsaw. This is a Makita 15 amp 14-inch blade chain saw. It's electric, and this is a tool that I used. This specific model is no longer available. I'll put a link to it, to the one that replaces it, below at Amazon, so you can read more about it. I really like this chainsaw. So why did I invest in this particular one? It's relatively lightweight. It's pretty powerful. It's real handy. I got this at a time in 2003. We had a terrible ice storm. We were without power for over a week. So many people were in so much trouble. One of the things I ultimately did was I built a solar-powered battery system, and it's multiple deep cell batteries is what it is. And so that system with an inverter just powers this chainsaw without any problem. And the number of batteries that are there, I can run this all day long. And I could also use that battery system if my other two systems ever went down. We have a 45 kilowatt generator. We have lots of abilities. We don't burn much wood. Not for this. For doing maple syrup, we'll probably be doing more burning in the future, but we have much more wood than we could use. So I'm not doing this as an adjunct to facilitating our firewood needs here on site. This one is a very accurate. You can get very precise, and there are many people who operate chainsaws who are much better than me. But we can get pretty darn good level cuts. If I do the measuring and all, I can get some pretty darn precise cuts with this. Not as good as I can get with a circular saw, but as good as I can get with a reciprocating saw. And so this chainsaw works very, very well. And I wanted one that was portable. I move it all around the property and get into areas and do limbing work and all that. And I don't like all the noise. I don't like all the chemicals that are given off, the incomplete combustion products as well. And this is much longer than you wanted, Steve, so I apologize for that. But that's the unit that I use to cut off the tops of the 6x6 posts. Really nice saw. I also have GreenWorks, I think they're 40 volt cordless tools. So I have a pole saw. That's a chainsaw, works extremely well. I really like that, and I think that's just an 8-inch bar, a 6 or 8-inch bar. But that allows me to do a lot of limbing. It gives me, I think, an 8-foot extension on top of what I am. And then I have the GreenWorks small battery operated saw. So if I need to pop someplace real quick and I just want to use that one, I don't have to bring the big battery system out. I don't have to bring an extension cord. I just take that small one, throw it in the back of Pepe, and go do whatever I've got to do. And I've got a few batteries, so I can work for an hour and a half with it. So that's it with the chainsaws and what I use to cut the 6x6 posts. Let's see. I think that, oh, Kazana, sorry about all the rain you're getting in New Zealand. We've gotten our share of it here. I really feel blessed at all the rain that we've gotten. It's been wonderful for the food forest out here. We're having a really a bountiful fruit and nut production so far this year. So that's great, considering how young all the trees are. And thank you. I'm sorry. And thank you again for the wonderful compliments for the videos and all. I appreciate it. So I think that takes care of all the questions and comments for this time. If there are any further comments or questions, please leave them below. Give us a thumbs up if you think the videos are of value, and please share them with your friends. It's greatly appreciated. Thanks so much for watching, folks. Have a great day. Bye-bye now. Hi folks, Kevin here. Well, it's July, oh, great blue heron, walking around by the, maybe I can show you this. It's a great blue heron there, right next to the bioremediation canal. Little angels. So that's what I was just distracted by.